Drip irrigation systems are the most efficient and conventional ways to get water to any garden, be it a large-scale production that you're going to be using for commercial use or a small 6x4 bed like this one. What makes a drip irrigation system so efficient is that it delivers water directly to your root zone, alleviating a lot of what could be problems because the amount of splash that you might get when you're overhead watering or watering by hand. Now I'm just putting on the final touches for the primary plumbing for the drip irrigation system that's going to be going into this bed. What I mean by the primary plumbing is the way that I'm going to be getting the water from point A to now point B. In my case right now, point A happens to be an already established water sprinkler system in this yard, and point B, of course, is whatever bed I'm going to. Because I am using the tap off of the sprinkler system, for this build I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch pipe of PVC. If I were to be doing it off of a spigot, that primary plumbing probably more than likely would be a 1/2 inch pipe. Just because the smaller the pipe, the more pressure it's going to be getting, because I often find that I don't get as much pressure off of the water hose bib as I do off of the tap of a sprinkler system. With all that being said, let's get into it. Now the very first thing I'm going to be putting on for my drip irrigation system is this, a valve. This is a ball valve. This is the one that you want to use. Yes, I find that these happen to be the very best for a drip irrigation system because you can really get in here and dial in the amount of water you want in and out of your bed. The reason I even want a valve on my bed is because if something's going on in this bed that needs to be corrected, I can now just turn it off. It isolates the bed from any other parts of the garden. So a valve, always of utmost importance. So the first thing I'll do is get a little tape here, PVC tape, and I will wrap that going opposite of the tread that I'm going to be attaching my my valve to. So I'm going to screw that on. You could use slips on this as well if you want, but I like to use the treaded to get that on nice and tight. Try to get on as tight as you possibly can go. There we go. There we go. And there's that. Now my valve's on. Now the second thing that I'm going to be attaching to this bed is a nipple. Now they call this a nipple. I would simply call it the bell-to-bell converter, but for whatever reason they decided to call it a nipple. And I'm going to go with that. Nipple. Nipples are good. Now I'll go ahead and insert that directly into the valve. The next thing I'm going to be adding to the system is probably the single-handed most important piece of the whole entire drip irrigation system, and that is your backfill preventer. It pretty much does what it says and it says what it does. It keeps water going in one direction and not hitting these pipes and wanting to go back. It keeps everything moving smoothly in one direction. You definitely want to have this. In fact, if you don't have this, you probably run the risk of your system just at one point just water spraying everywhere. Now keep in mind this is a backfill preventer, so it only goes in one direction, so it can only be put on in one direction. The next thing I'm going to be adding to my system is a filter. Somehow or another, a piece of compost, mulch, whatever, it gets into that line. This should safeguard that, right? Because you do not want any of this clogging up this small little hole there. You see that? Now the next thing that I'm going to be putting on is a splitter. Now that I have all this established to this point, the next thing I want to do is blow out my lines just to make sure I didn't put any dirt or anything like that into my primary plumbing that would eventually end up going into my drip irrigation system. Now that I've blown out my primary plumbing, I'm pretty sure that there's no solids in these pipes that are going to now get into my drip irrigation system and cause my emitters. it's time for me to go ahead and add the hose. It's pretty simple. All you do is simply push, right? You get your hose, put in the hole, and you push. Now this is gonna take a little elbow grease. Oops, try not to crank it that much. I do like a little twisting thing with it. That's all you need to do. Cool thing about this is, as soon as they're in, they're in. You're not really pulling that out, right? No matter how hard I pull, really hard to get it out. All right, cool deal. All that's left is to cut a desired length, cap, and punch some holes for my emitters. Boom, just like that. Alrighty, y'all, that's gonna pretty much do it for me. So don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you wanna keep up with what it is that I'm doing, you can catch me on Instagram. I'm Justin Gay, this is the Seeds of Xanxadu, y'all. Peace. Let's go, Mochi.